Well, Graham, good to see you again. Look, on the back of Bolton, obviously pleased with the performance and what you were able to show in that game. What's been the kind of general message in the aftermath of that game this week?
Just a bit more of about our identity as a team. How we go about our work. The first things we sort of tick off at the start of pre-season, and what stood us in good stead at the start of the season, and just a couple of spells in games, not the whole game, but a couple of spells in games where we probably went away from it a little bit for certain reasons, different reasons probably at the time. So I just felt the performance on Saturday was, from minute one right to the last minute, the right way for us to go about it. I think there's other aspects we have to be good at to win a game of football, but the first and foremost is committing to what we are, putting the opponent under pressure, showing the right attitude, and I don't mean attitude as in work ethic, because I never question the players' work ethic, because it's always spot on. I mean that sort of not arrogance, but that thing that we know we're a good team, but we know why, and we don't want to over respect the opponent. That let's be proud of what we are and what we can give to a game, and then commit to it. And I thought that's what we did last week. So it's even though it was a 0-0 draw, I think anyone watching that game was thoroughly entertained from both sets of supporters. But anyone from our club would look at it and go, yeah, that's a bit more like us.
Yeah.
And that feeling, I talk about it quite. It's not what you see, it's what you feel. And what I felt all the way through that game was that every single player was committed to their teammate, and it was great. On
the back of that game, do you need to say anything to acknowledge that, or do the players know it themselves already?
Yeah, they know it, because I could hear them talking in the changing room straight after the game. So I think, and you can feel it. So even when we're on the pitch, straight at the end, a couple of players, that's more like us. You can you sense it. But I think we get a lot of data around the game. Obviously, everyone does. So I think it's always important to go through it and find bits of information that sort of gives players confidence going forward that this is why we do it. It's not just for the feeling, but it is actually productive, and it can impact on the opponent. So we give some data back on our performance, and then also what it did to the opponent's performance, and because that's what we're in the game of. We have to disrupt the opponent, and they try to disrupt us, and it's who comes out on top. And I thought it was a really interesting and quite an exciting game from that perspective, to be honest.
I wanted to ask you about the data, actually, not just specifically about Bolton, but just more generally how the numbers have looked across the season. You mentioned after the game you wouldn't mind seeing what Tyreek Wright's running data was, but what do the numbers look like over the course of the season up until this point?
Well, look, there's numbers for everything, to be honest, apart from feeling like that. With a beating heart, not from a computer. So that's why I like it. No, I think you can get performance data from the technical side. You can get it from the tactical side, and obviously the physical data is very prevalent in the game. But it still doesn't make your judgment call right after a game. We've been in the game long enough to know what a good game of football looks like, what a good performance looks like, from either an individual or a game or a team. But I think it sort of it cements opinions, or ideas, and so we don't look at absolutely everything, but if we can get something that sort of backs up what we first thought and what we feel can take forward, so it's all over the place. So there's a lot of good data on the attacking side of it. The defensive side of it we need to improve, which was great to get a clean sheet as well, so that to get more like the sort of the strong team we were last year on the defensive side of it. Well, certainly in the second part of the season, the attacking data has been excellent. Even though we haven't scored the goals, it's not as high, obviously, the XG as it was at the start of the season. But that's, I think, due to opponents finding ways to counteract what we are, and then we have to do the same. So that's what we're assessing right now for other ways for us to gain the advantage. But even though we're still looking for different ways of doing it, we're still looking for the same outcome. We still want to be a hard pressing, all-out attack team, but it's just finding different ways to go about it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, really. And sometimes when you're looking at something, you're trying to work something out, sometimes a bit of data can just direct you in the way you want to go and give you an insight into something. So it's really interesting, but it doesn't, your professional judgment, your experience and all that, I think that marries up with it, to be honest.
And how much is it a balancing act in your mind when you're looking at those areas where you can gain an advantage and maybe acknowledging that teams are looking to try and disrupt you because of what you've shown this season, but then also not straying too far away from your core principles of what you are as a team? Is that a balancing act?
No, it's because we don't. That's it. So our core principles they're not wedded to a certain type of pass or a certain formation or something. But this is what we want to look like as a team, and this is what I feel our players, our recruitment, and over a couple of years now of developing. It's always been with this idea of how our team looks, where we want to put pressure on the opponent. If they've got the ball, we want to go and get it back. If we've got the ball, we want to attack your goal. So in simple terms, it's that. But there's many different ways and formations to do that. We still kept our sort of identity, so to speak, midway through last season when we changed our shape. We still had the same core principles. We just found a different formation to allow us to do that. So that's still in our mindset. To if we have to adapt, if we have to change something, we will. But we also got to understand that what we've been doing so far has paid dividends, to be honest. So, but that's the competitive nature of professional football. It's brilliant. I love that side of it where you have to work out what teams are doing against you. Like when I first came here, what teams were doing when they came to Valley Parade, and we had to find a strategy to overcome that. I think it's probably a similar situation at the moment, a little bit, and but I believe our way form has improved from last season. It's not gone from towards the bottom towards the top, but we've certainly been harder to beat. We've certainly if you look at the venues and the teams we played away from home, our record is really good. So we always try and find ways to improve, but it's never a stagnant process, because then you find that improvement, then the opposition go, well, we have to counteract that, and it's constantly like that, but without losing yourself, which I think is really important.
That solving process, for the want of a better way of describing it, is it an easier process when you've got a solid set foundation at your core? You compare it to when you first arrived, you're working out the new environment, the landscape of the football club, but now 2 years in, you're doing it from a position of solidity, foundation. Is it an easier process from the problem-solving standpoint?
It is, because you're halfway there already. From a standing point, you already got a lot of strength core, of what you do. So the characters, the people, they know you, which is probably more important, that they know us. And but the other thing is they're convinced by it because they've seen the results, they've seen the success we've had. So when you first come in, you're trying to convince against the backdrop of maybe your past history as a manager, but nothing with them as individuals. So that takes time, and you spend quite a bit of time. You think you found the key to something, and then it goes the other way, like it did in the first season. So it's I think we are in a good place, because I think if you have a basis of what you know what your game is, when things don't go so right, you're not just going from the bottom and trying to search for a needle in a haystack. You can identify what you're not doing as well as before, or the opposition is stopping you from doing it, and then you can try and fix it if you can. So through information, through training sessions, through analysis, all that sort of thing. And but I never want to go really away from what we are. I think it's brought us success. I think it's engaged the support, and basically they're the two things that we want to do. We want to win games, and we want the supporters with us. So as long as we keep doing that, then I think we're in a good place.
Bodies-wise, going into Saturday, firstly, how did you come through at Bolton, particularly Antoni and Aidan? Great to see them back, but how did they come through?
Yeah, good. They trained all this week, so that's really good. Really positive from that perspective. I think we knew Sars would be able to play at least half a game, just because he's already played the season, not missed as much. But then obviously Aidan's been out quite a while, so we were unsure. But fortunately we had that bounce game the week before, and he played 45 in that, but obviously a different tempo going into an environment like that. But yeah, he sailed through it, so that's good for us. And the only obviously one is Penno, who's he's got a muscle tear in his hamstring, so he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks probably. So a little bit disappointing, but in the action that he did it in, it's not usually something small when you're full out running and it goes like that. It's usually a significant one. So it's a bit of a shame for Penno, and obviously a shame for us. If
his return date is true to what you said there and everything goes accordingly, that will probably coincide with January. And I'd want to ask you about January, given that it's on the horizon. Firstly, does that dictate at all your thoughts going into January, the injury to Matthew, or is it too early to say? Yeah, no, I don't think it does, to be honest, because maybe 5 weeks or something from January. He's probably on the horizon then for coming back, and we're not going to sign somebody to fill in for 3 weeks or something, So no, we've got. I think obviously if we keep everyone else fit, Curtis Tilt is on the horizon as well, so that's good. So I think if Penno's the only one missing, then we've got enough in the building to carry on competing. So it's only if we lose a couple of others, then we're a bit bare. But no, Penno's injury doesn't make us change what we were going to do in January. At what point do you start thinking about January in your long list of responsibilities?
Last Wednesday we had a meeting for the first time really. So all the guys, myself, Chris, Brian, David, Genty, just sat down and went through basically how we've performed this season already, with the data and how we feel as well, each individual, or mostly individuals, and then what we believed we needed to either maintain or improve what we're doing. So that was the initial sort of meeting together, but we've been speaking about it, I don't know, maybe a month or even a month and a half really, because we're constantly just assessing and just talking about little ideas here and there about what we might possibly need. But last Wednesday was really where, no, this is what we need now. We've seen enough of the league, we've seen enough of us. Now really the real hard work starts for those guys, but fortunately enough I trust them implicitly to go and get that work done while I can focus on the team and trying to win games. So but like I've said before, I think it's we're trying to improve a very good team at the moment, so it's going to be difficult, but we believe there's players out there that can do that.
I was about to say, I can't imagine it's wholesale changes, more fine tuning where you're at the moment.
Yeah, I think so, because I always understand coming into a window, there's players in any squad that probably haven't had the game time that they would like to have, and sometimes they can see light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes they believe that their time would be better off elsewhere, this, that, the other. I haven't had any of those conversations with players, and no one's came to me with that idea yet. And it is too early, really, to be fair, because it's only November. But I know these things happen. But ultimately, we have to be a little bit selfish as a club and do what's good for us first and foremost, and take it from there. But I always, as an ex-player myself, I always have to listen to the players and their, because it is their career. I know they're contracted to us and all this lot, but if it comes down to it, I think it's important that we try and look after our players whichever way we can.
Finally, do you enjoy it, the recruitment side of it?
I do and I don't. You know what I mean? I do. I like the whole thing, looking at footballers, looking at good footballers, judging them, and all that sort of thing. It's good, but it's very time consuming if you do it. And the days are gone now where it was just down to a manager and to go and do that, and thankfully so, because there's so much information and data and analysis there to go, and the job is so busy, it's very hard for you to get to live games and see potentials anyway. So but I think we've shown in the past that we've got a good way of working at the club. We've got a good relationship between us all, think there's a real common ground. We've all got the same, ambitions, and we all know how each other thinks, and we've all seen how the team performs at a really good level. So, I don't really have to sit with Stephen, Jen, and David to go, this is the type of player we need. I think they know that now, but it's obviously when it comes down to it, it'll come down to our judgment to try and get the best ones.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, mate.
Because the other side of the transfer window is that people may come in for players that are already at Bradford. And I suppose the flip side of the same coin, that you're doing really well, so players might not want to leave. But that also raises their profile to other managers. Yeah,
there's any one player could have 7 different scenarios around him, about his potential future. So it's obviously the club, the player himself, all these sort of things, and then you don't know who's going to maybe give you a call at any point. So you have to have an open mind, but you also have to have a discipline. I think the biggest thing in football is discipline. Whether you're a manager, a player, in recruitment, you know what you want, you know what you need, and you stick to that as much as you can. I think it's easy to become indisciplined and sign somebody is a good player, but it's not right for your team, and then you end up trying to change everything around to get the best out of that. That's no good. That doesn't work. So I think the discipline of being able to say no is really important. And but then we go forward and we see what it comes. But I think we're in a good place. I think we've got a good squad. I think they're motivated and doing good things, obviously. But everything can be improved all the time, and that's got to be our main aim if we can. But there's another month to go, so a lot of phone calls, a lot of conjecture, a lot of media talk. But we're used to it.
And Exeter on Saturday, home again, but completely different feel, I suppose, to the Pointon game, in that you're at opposite ends of the table, but it's going to present its own problems.
Well, we saw that in our last home game, so we don't need any reminders from that perspective. I think we understand the challenge that's coming. I think we've gone up to a new level and really competed superbly well. But I think that there has been a change in how opponents combat us, certainly at Valley Parade in the last couple of games. So it's another challenge for us to overcome and find the answers to. But we never disrespect any opponent without a shadow of a doubt. We know that. But it's important, like I said at the start of the piece, that we have an attitude about what we are as well. I think it's important that we have our own self-worth. We're proud to represent a really good club. And we're proud of what we've done so far and what we're going to do, and believe in that more than anything else. So, but respect is a big part of that as well. Respect our daily work, respect our club, respect the opponent. So I think the players are in a good place to do that, and I think maybe the last home game was a reminder, if anyone needed, that you have to be at your best at all times.
Cheers.
Okay, mate.
I was going to say, Graham, going on from that, as you said about Burton being a bit of a reminder, it's almost a similar scenario, and a team that's been in the league the last three seasons, I think. Yeah. Probably not one of the more fancied sides in there, but they're showing they know the level.
Honestly, it's surprising me when people are surprised by results. It really does. It's because it's just how the game is. It's a one-off game. Obviously 46 times, but it is a one-off game. And they're not grouped together. And moments can happen, events can happen in a game that change the course of it, and so forth. But no one's at this level if they're not good at what they do, if they're not fit, if they're not organised, if they're not coached well, if they've not got motivated players. It's impossible. You get found out really quickly. So we understand the nature of the opponent that's coming. Like you say, they are an established League One club. Do a lot of good things over many years. They've got a very good manager there as well in Gary, and so it's going to be a challenge. But the big thing about us, I think, the bigger the challenge, the better we are, and we have to see this as a big challenge on Saturday.
As you said last week, it was more like the Bradford City that we know. In a sense, it's almost like getting back to that at home, isn't it? Because it's 3 weeks since the last home game, and that one's sort of been hanging over, isn't it? Because it's been such a fantastic home for so long.
Yeah, but I think if if you look at the games before that, even though we didn't win them, they were still strong performances. You know, the Lincoln game was a really tough game. You know, really stretched. That was a good point for us, to be fair. And Barnsley, I thought, was one of our best performances. So it's only probably the first half against Burton where we didn't reach the levels, but we know why. We know why. We knew why within 48 hours. This is why. We gave that information back to the players. We spoke about it again today in training, that we can't let that happen to us again. So it's important that we understand that. And you know, I think that obviously that game was sandwiched in between a couple of disappointing cup games. But in the league, our form and our performances have been superb. So I don't want to bunch those on top of that. It was a one-off half a game where we let ourselves down. We went away from what we were. We understood why. It wasn't through intention, but we sort of got lulled into it. So we just can't make that mistake again.
I was going to ask you about Kevin McDonald, who's still very much part of the Exeter squad.
Yeah.
I mean, as a player yourself, who played to your 40, I think he's 37 and a half or something now. And, he's a former player here, former manager here.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to see him still very much in the mix, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we knew that at the time. You know, I knew that. You know, speaking to Kev at the time, that he was desperate to continue to play football. And I got it because he knew me when I was his age. You know, and he was 20 and I was 37 at Burnley, and we played next to each other. And he could see the desire I had to keep playing, so I recognised it in him when he was here. So, but he's a great lad, Kev, and you know, he contacted me when we won promotion, you know, which was great. You know, because you know, sometimes when you go separate ways, sometimes you think, you know, any relationship might have sort of gone to the dog, so to speak. But you know, he sent me a great message and got back in touch with him. So it was good to see, because he is a good lad, but he's had a tough time with, you know, illness and so forth over the last few years. But I think he's enjoying where he is. I think he obviously knows Gaz really well. So yeah, it'd be good to see him again. But you know, if he plays, you know, we know there's a good player there without a shadow of a doubt, and we have to be on top form to compete against them and all their players. But yeah, it'd be good to see him again.
He's still very much got those coaching ambitions, hasn't he? You know, but as he said, you know, you get every minute you can out of your playing career before you move into that.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, and I remember speaking to Kev about that and sort of giving him any advice from my perspective that, you know, once you leave playing, that's it. It doesn't come back. And he's probably almost left playing before through his illness, didn't he? So his second opportunity to come back, he wants to grasp it and everything. So, and I would, you know, unless it's your injury debilitated, you know, maintain your playing career, because it's a special time of your life. It's what you dreamt of doing as a young player, as a young person. Sorry. So if you get an opportunity, take it. But you know, you do have to prepare yourself for what comes after, and you know, I think he's doing that. But I had the same advice from people when I was that age, you know, about, you know, just enjoy your playing career as long as you can. So, but fingers crossed he doesn't enjoy Saturday. That's the main thing.
Graham, have the last few weeks just been a reminder that you can build a good culture at a place, you can build good core principles, you can get the right people in, but you can never just park it and leave it. You always have to sort of maintain it and remind people. Yeah,
definitely. I think 100%, because you know, you can maybe take something like a way of behaving or a way of training a bit for granted, and you can just lose your edge a little bit. And I think we're a team that plays on an edge, you know, with an intensity that we bring to the game. So I think it's important to probably recognise those things coming, but sometimes you can talk about something until it happens. That's when you can really react to it, and I think that's what happened in the previous home game. But I think the culture and the environment we've tried to create is one that's ready for hits, that can take hits, that can take disappointment and keep going forward. That's the biggest thing. So we don't paint this perfect world picture that everything's rosy all the time. We actually you know, acknowledge that there's difficult moments, acknowledge that we can go wrong, acknowledge that we can make mistakes, but it's how you act after that determines how big that's going to be. And I think what we've got here is a group of players and staff and the supporters, I would put in with that react really well to disappointing moments. And I think that's the biggest thing about competing in football or in life in general terms.
Is that supporter side of it particularly important? Because obviously you've got more control over how the lads here think. Through these, you try and influence the supporters, but you really need that buy-in, don't you, to, as you say, to react in the right way to disappointment? Yeah,
look, I don't control anything. I do, but I do try to influence. It's we're talking about humans, and it's hard to completely control humans, but that's the exciting part of it. But you have to influence, and you have to be a bit steadfast with it. You have to really believe in your principles and fight for them and stick with them through thick and thin, because that's where the consistency in life is. So because difficult moments happen to us all, every day, and but the ones that are consistent go through these moments. So I think it's I think as much as we can influence each other, the guy next to us, the guy in front of us, the support we get on the day, everyone's got a responsibility. I know I'm the manager and sort of leader of this group, but everyone has a responsibility to influence the person around them to have better thoughts, have better actions, to behave in a better way, or whatever it is. And I think that's important for us. And I think we've seen that. I think we've witnessed that. Certainly from the training ground and the squad. But I've actually witnessed it, I believe, with the supporters as well. I think there's a lot of good faith, I would say, from the supporters. So when we didn't play particularly well against Burton and got beat at home, the response to that. Listen, there's always going to be a bit of criticism with frustration. That's understandable. There was criticism from me to myself, to be honest. So that's fine. But I thought there was a lot of faith in what we had done before, and then a lot of faith going forward. And I think that's how you can then go and perform at Bolton like that, and have that 5,000 following and still that backing. It's because there's a faith there between us all, and I think it's important for us to encourage that and maintain it as much as possible.
Because, there's always reminders, even if you just look at football, the best team in England last season started this season brilliantly, and they've had a wobble, know. Do you use sort of outside examples of talking to your players in that respect?
Yeah, I do, yeah, of course, because I think it's, sometimes I think in football, you think it's personal, you think it's only you that's having a difficult moment, and all you have to do is look at the bigger world, and you see it happening all over the place, and certainly in football, there's loads of examples of that, and that shows you how competitive and how difficult football can be. That a slight change of anything can just take you off track, and then there's so many competitors, they just jump on it and they want to kill you, and that's how it is. So you have to be so alive to that, but you also have to be responsive to negative times and have an understanding of what you're trying to do. So and I do use examples all the time, certainly in sport, and it doesn't have to be football, but in sport in general, about the challenges that come your way and how the best overcome them, and how they repeat success. It's not just through good times, it's all those difficult moments that they come good. And I think it gives you a chance as a player, as a staff member, to actually plan for that and prepare for it mentally and emotionally to react to it in the right way.
And just in terms of that planning for it, you said earlier, it's harder to do until the setback happens. Yeah. And you mentioned a sort of tactical cat and mouse with Jamie. Yeah. How much do you try and sort of get ahead of the game and second guess it, and how much do you just have to be reactive?
Sort of second guessing it and stuff is difficult, I think, and then I think you're putting too much emphasis on what the opponent might be doing, and I'm a big believer in us getting our A game right. And I still think in the last game at home we could have played how we wanted to play. I think we just got invited into a different game. I don't think they forced us into it. I think they invited into it, and we sort of opened the door and took it. And we should have refused it and gone, no, we play this way, and we're this aggressive, and we're this front-footed. So I think that's just, it's understanding that there's many detours and many distractions, and sometimes it could be the build-up of a game or the profile of a game, and sometimes what the opponent does in the first minute, or at the kickoff. We just got to have a real clear idea about what our game is and how it is consistently against many different opponents. If there's something structurally we have to change long term, we will look at that, but we won't do it off the back of one game or one difficult performance. It has to be over a longer period of, actually, this has not worked for 6 or 7 games now. Now we have to find a solution, but I don't think that's the case. I think we've seen the performances in the league especially, have been strong, really strong. So there's no need for us to actually do that. But it's just recognising what type of challenges coming our way, that we can still perform how we want to perform. And that's what I believe. I think we got a way of playing that we can play 90% of the games this way. And that's what we have to believe in.
And I guess if this is, I mean, reset's too strong a word, but, you know, just a slight shift of focus, it's come at a good time, because obviously, as we all know, now is the time when you've got game on game on game to really cash in on that sort of just slight improvement in there.
Yeah, look, I think we're always trying to, even when we start the season, we I don't know, won 7 out of 10. We were still talking about improvement, but it's subtly, because then if you're doing big changes, the player going, what are we doing? We're winning all the time. Why are you changing this? So, you know, you have to try and improve like subtly and to make that. But you also understand, we always understand that we're never perfect. But I think the players are in a good place. I thought we just brought it back to basics. I thought after the Doncaster game, I spoke to you guys about it, just about having a bit of perspective, not building up to be bigger than what it was. I think the players responded to that last week with their performance. So there's no reset, and we're not looking ahead at a group of games at all. It's about Saturday only. We have to get back to that basic. I had to get back to that, about just focusing on the challenge right in front of us. If we do that, which we've done over the last 18 months, I think it gives us the opportunity to play at our best self. So we're looking forward to it. We love playing at Valley Parade. Big crowd again. Yeah, we can't wait.
Thanks a lot.